Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Stanzel. It has been a very good time to be with you. Yeah, but actually we know each other since a quarter of century. Compared with what happened to me 5 years ago, to the 2 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, I have to say the world is getting better and also worse, messy and unorganized in terms of geopolitical conflict. China is rising, which is a challenge for the rest of the world. And by the way, among the Western country, in the Western camp, things are also doing difficult, which are happening at the same time, overlapped, which makes the problem to be more complex. As a global thinker, do you have an explanation, and do you have a solution?
That's a lot to be asked.
Yeah.
But Peter, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for having me. It's a most interesting time to be in Hong Kong, and it's also a stimulation to think about problems even of a global nature like the one you just put on the table. Now, I think maybe it's a bit easy to say things are getting better and things are getting worse at the same time. I would rather say the potential for getting better is increasing, but things are presently getting from bad to worse in many areas. So what we have to look out for is where is the potential for improvement? Where do things get worse? In the international area, definitely. We have more crises that seem to be less tractable to be solved. For example, for us Europeans, the Russian problem is increasing because of Russia's continuing dominance, which has to do with the fact that the US is withdrawing from the Middle East and also from Europe in many ways. So the US is the second problem. This is a problem not only for Europe, it's a problem for the whole world. If the major superpower continues to withdraw from its engagement from multilateralist institutions, from the liberal world order in effect, which once was created by the United States. The Middle East, of course, is a major crisis which is inherited from President Bush Jr., because of whom hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have died and continue to die. And this is also intractable, this crisis. And lastly, China. China's rise, and that is where the potential for improvement comes in. But at the moment, China is sharpening our feeling for the deterioration of the international order. We have, as I said, the Russia phenomenon. We have regional crises like Middle East. We have the big problem of the United States. But of course, we know there will be a time after Donald Trump. With China, we have a country that has achieved what we all supported it to do, which is economic rise. And many countries in the world have contributed a lot to achieve that. And the reason, obviously, is that we all benefit from China's rise. The Chinese people are the first to benefit, but we also benefit. You go to any kind of market where electronic goods are being sold in Germany, in the US, in Japan, wherever, and you see how many of these goods are now available at affordable prices thanks to production in China. China benefits us, benefits the whole world. Look at Africa, look at Latin America. The problem, however, is that with this economic expansion, China does not integrate itself fully into the rules-based world order, a liberal world order, which is also one of the reasons for China's success, because of the way foreign corporations, investments were done in China. China benefited, China grew. But China, when it was domestically oriented, did not accept these rules. And our companies, corporations, our governments accepted this because we thought in time this will improve. It did not. Nowadays, rather, what China's trying is to impose its own domestic rules onto the international order. So if it supports its companies in China it tries to do it in the same way outside of China. So, for example, investments in many countries can be done by Chinese companies only because the Chinese government finances them. The way China handles the question of intellectual property inside China, it's okay for the Chinese government to take away technological property from companies. It's not okay if it does that outside of China too, but this is what happens. The strategic planning of something like the Belt and Road Initiative is an expensive government-induced strategy that cannot be compared to anything that other countries do abroad. So this causes frictions. And as China is continuing to expand, we will see, I fear, an increase in the velocity of these kind of detrimental to all, even to the Chinese developments. That is what's going wrong presently. It's one of the phenomenon that goes wrong. And I speak about China because you asked me about it too. Now, potential for improvement is obviously the fact that in the past, China gradually, very gradually, but it has tried to adapt to how the world functions. And it is also doing this at the present time. You have two competing trains running out of Beijing. One is trying to impose the Communist Party's way of handling things onto the whole world, and that leads to conflict. And the other one is a train that leads to the adaptation to how the world works, how the international community works. And that is the potential for improvement. I imagine if we had a China that defends the international order, the rules-based order of WTO, of the United Nations, fully, as other countries do, then that would benefit all of us. And that would, in the end, mean, yes, China's rise has become an advantage for everybody, not just for the Chinese Communist Party.